In the previous lesson, we saw that we can send tweets from our local machine, and we can also get all of the tweet information depending on the search term. So we're all ready to set up our front end code. So we've got all of our routes set up. Our index.js is all set up and ready to go. I'm going to remove that last console there. And now let's open up index.html. So we don't have a whole lot happening here. So first of all, let's create an index.html file. So an index template. And we'll call it tweet objects from node. Go ahead and save that. Clean that up a bit. So we need to have some way to interact with our API to send our API request. So let's set up an input. And know that we can pick up a search term as well. So type text and give it an ID. So I'm going to call it search. And then value, so we could have a default value or we could just keep it as blank. And then also let's add in a button. Give an ID of get tweets. So clicking this button will allow us to search tweets. So that's it. So let's see what that looks like. So we've got our input field there. We can have a placeholder as well. So placeholder looks a lot better. So placeholder, search term. Go back, refresh. So we need to enter in a search term, click the search tweets button, and of course it doesn't do anything yet. We haven't brought in our JavaScript yet. So we're going to be searching, and what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be going over to this route and picking up all of that search information and then retrieving that back as data using our AJAX request. So setting up script. And then at the bottom of the script, so let's do const document. We can do get element by ID because they all have IDs there. So just use search. So we'll grab that one, and now let's set up the button. So this is our search button called get tweets, and document, and get this one by ID as well. So setting up both of those, we need to add an event listener to get tweets. So add event listener, and we're going to listen for a click on that. And when it does get clicked, we'll create a function called getAllTweets. So let's set up that function. So this function we're going to call getAllTweets. And we're going to pick up that search information from within this function. So first of all, let's grab const URL. So grab the URL of where we're sending where our route is, where we're actually sending our request to. So make sure that it's in line with the route that we set up within index.js. So make sure that we are sending it to tweets, and we see that we are looking for a parameter there. So this is where we can add in that search value. So remember, we set the variable search to the contents of this element, and then all we're just doing is grabbing the value. So that should give us the actual route that we want to go to, and we'll use fetch. So fetch URL, then function, and we'll look for a response. And first of all, let's return that response as JSON. So all we're doing is returning that response as JSON. And then what do we want to do with that content? And we're grabbing all of that information as data. So we've got some options of what we want to do. But for now, let's just output it within the console just to make sure that we're actually grabbing our data. And then we can worry about what we're going to do and how we're going to output that afterwards. And then lastly, let's set up our catch. So this is a catch in order to catch any errors that might happen. and then we can do something with those errors. And for now, we'll just console log out the errors as well. So we'll do a JSON and stringify so that we can get a string version of any of the errors that get output. So that looks pretty good. So let's open up our browser and try that out. So let's see, we get a search term, we'll type in test and go into our console, and we see that we're getting returned back this object. So we've got search metadata. So this is the search query that we searched for, the count of 5, and sense ID, so we didn't enter any of those. We've got the refresh URL, next results, so we can also make use of these as well. So if we wanted to do a pagination, we could just do next results, and we're always returning back that next result path that we can query into. And then we've got our statuses. So these are actually the tweets, the various tweets that were returned. We see that we wanted to return back 5, so we got 5 back within our console. And again, just a ton of information there that we can make use of. So next, what we need to do is find a way to output this data really nice and neatly within our index page. So that's coming up in the next lesson. So go ahead and set this up. Make sure that all of your routes are working. Before you go ahead and try with the front end, you can use Postman in order to ensure that your routes are working properly. And as long as you're able to retrieve information and post information, that's all you need to make sure that your routes are working. And then you're ready to finish off the project with the index, the front end index page, where you can create all of that functionality between the different elements and finish off that AJAX, where we're going to be actually making use and outputting that content into the page. So let's, before we conclude this lesson, let's set up somewhere to output our tweets to. So we'll just create an unordered list. And I'm going to set up a const called output and document. And this is also get element by ID. And of course, you can use query selector or whatever way you want in order to make those selections of those elements. So coming up next, we'll show you how you can output that content, all of that data, onto your web page. So that's coming up.